grew up knowing that I needed to read law so that I might understand how to navigate the lawless country in which I would have to survive. And my understanding of that law says that I should be for now. There is a gag order saying that I mustn't speak to the case before the magistrate court in Ekiti. And elements of my arrest speaks directly to that case. As you will be aware, the charges of, was it cyber stalking or I don't know cyber what I was supposed to have committed, have been lifted at the last adjourned date. That was last, was that Wednesday or Thursday? I'm not sure now, 29th. This one too, I should be before the magistrate on the 13th of February. So I promise I will come back and talk to you about that part. But the part related to the prison, I promised my fellow inmates, you understand? You know what I'm saying? I promised them that whenever I will tell their story, it will be as a comedy. Because there are way too many tragedies within the correctional system. And if I cannot do anything to help resolve the many challenges that I saw there, I shouldn't do anything to exacerbate the situation. I saw prison officers spending their own monies on drugs for sick inmates. If there was a system that cared, there is no reason why an underpaid officer would have to be spending his own money to take care of inmates. So I saw a lot that we should talk about, and we definitely will. But I promised my fellow inmates that it will be treated in a comedic fashion. But I assure you, there are many stories from that Ado-Ekiti prison. You'll laugh yourself silly. But we're not in a season where anything is really funny if you think about it. So, but don't let me waste your time.
I want us to talk about, prison, because a lot of people, I think Fela was noted to have said that's where are they inside prison? Are they for inside the world? Where are they outside prison? Are they for outside world? The Chris world?
We call it Tayoko.
So let's talk about that. Inside world, as it were. 21 days is no joke. Let's talk about the prison memoirs.
Rufai, there is something I do. Maybe it's peculiar to me as a writer, or maybe other writers have the same predilection. But what I find is that when I intend to write about something, I deliberately keep it bottled up. Not that I won't talk to you about it, but there are just way too many things to talk about in relation to my prison experiences. But what I can say to you is this. I heard the average Nigerian, even whilst I was in prison. One of the most effective mode of communication in prison are radios. Prisoners have radios. They are allowed radios. So you are kept abreast of what is happening in the wider world. Before I got to prison, everybody in prison already knew who I was and what I was alleged to have done. So I wasn't entering the prison unknown. And I was blessed to meet I must say that a lot of people within the old timers had already established for me what I was to expect whenever I went to prison. And prison was always an expectation for me. I always knew it was something that I should expect. In fact, it's probably the least of the many things that the Nigerian state and its many powers could do to you. So I went to prison knowing what to expect, but they exceeded my expectation. From officers to inmates, I was treated most humanely by everybody that I came into contact with. I was actually more concerned about the people that I was interacting with on a day-to-day basis. I had 10 other persons in the cell with me. There were 11 of us in my cell. And that, I was told, was one of the better ones in the place. I think the place was built to hold probably about 250 or so. It's holding over 800 inmates, as at the time I was there. The rations are basic. If anybody had to depend on the rations, they'd be dead within 6 months at the most. The rations themselves predisposes you to multiple opportunistic diseases of all sorts. The healthcare, most basic and rudimentary at best. And this cannot be blamed on the officers there. It's simply a function of the fact that the federal government runs prisons in this stupid federation that we tell ourselves that we're running. The federal government runs prisons, but it is the states that keep dumping people in prison without having to provide for their welfare. So you have a situation that is completely messy. If the states have to maintain their prisons, probably they would have better sentencing guidelines than the ones that I saw operated in that space. You had a person in prison spending 9 years because he stole a goat, and the goat was valued. The magistrate asked him how much he sold the goat. He said 9,000, and he got 9 years for stealing a goat.
When the politician that steals billions goes scot-free, they never go to.
You're the one using the word steal. They don't use the word steal. They've laundered the crime. They call it corruption now. It's a well laundered crime. It's